These videos, the chimney sweeps one, you're going to hear music in the background, and it's actually from Mary Poppins, and it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, because Mary Poppins is a really happy movie, isn't it? And the chimney sweeps are singing about their job, and they seem super pleased with where they're at, but we're going to get a different side of this in this video, so thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we'll come back to that.
You're watching the video?
Yeah, there's 4 videos of 4 different types of jobs that children had to do in Victorian Britain. Yes. I can see if you can come up here. Do you mind hitting the lights, please? Okay, so this first one is about factory work.
Oh, the lights.
And it won't go full screen because I had to crop it from YouTube. But
orphans. The first wave of factory labour in this country was made up of orphans. They were the real-life Oliver Twists, left to the mercy of the parishes. And their employment was nothing less than state-sponsored slavery. They were called parish apprentices, and aged as young as 7 or 8, were taken by cart from their homes in the parishes of London and other towns and cities, and transported hundreds of miles away to places like this. On arrival, they would be piled into dormitories like this one, billeted near their workplaces and indentured to the mills and factories as apprentices. Once signed over, they had to stay here till they were 21, sometimes 24 years old. This is the girls' dormitory. It's bigger than the boys' dormitory next door. Looks a little bit primitive, doesn't it? However, inside the factories, things were far from basic. State-of-the-art machinery shook and pounded the walls of these mills from dawn till dusk, and all the while children kept time with the relentless beat.
So Chris, how many people would be working this machine?
Typically, 2 men and a young child to a pair. The machine that we have here represents only half of that pair.
Yes. Was it dangerous?
Oh yeah. Injuries generally always occurred in the last 2 hours of the day.
So, injuries happen when people lost concentration. I see over here in this picture, the boy's not wearing any shoes.
Right. You weren't allowed to wear your clothes, which were that footwear of that period, you weren't allowed to wear them simply because with these machines running all the time, you get a level of cotton dust that builds up on the floor almost as if it's been snowing.
Yeah.
And obviously with your clothes, if your clog iron was to catch the railing on the floor, possibility of a spark and you would set fire to the factory floor, you'd burn the mill down. So mill room work was always perfected.
Yeah. I heard that there was a fatality associated with this machine in the past.
Yes, there was a 13-year-old boy who was one of the most important tasks that he was involved in was that of wiping down. The men who were in charge of these machines would draw the carriages out onto the end of the railings and then applying a brake to prevent the carriage retracting. The children then had to go around the back of the mule and then they would crawl underneath on the hands and knees, and on this occasion the guy who was in charge of this particular mule took his brake off and commanded the child to get out, and the child either didn't hear him or he didn't get out in time, and consequently he was crushed to the roller beam and killed instantly.
Terrible.
Parish apprentices were often called pauper apprentices because the new factories provided the powers that be with a cheap way of dealing with poor children.
Alright, so that is the mill, and they mentioned that there was a danger of it being burnt down if they wore shoes. They also mentioned that some kids died because they got trapped in the machinery. That hurt. Yeah, it would be awful. So this next one is about human scarecrows. 6 years old.
When I was 6 and 2 months old, I was sent off to work. I do not think I shall ever forget those long, hungry days in the field scaring crows. You can imagine the feeling of loneliness. Hours and hours passed without a living creature coming near. I cried most of the time. and in desperation I would shout as loud as I could, "Mother! Mother! Mother!" But Mother could not hear. She was working in the hayfield 2 miles away. By my 7th birthday, I was driving the plough. Any repairs to plough or harness had to be taken to tradesmen. Once, after working all day long, I had to carry a plough horse collar that required whittling, and the plough coulter that needed repairs at the blacksmith. These 2 heavy things made a burden far too much for me, but I had to trudge with them as best I could the 1.5 miles across the fields to Emden.
William Arnold was just 6 years old when he went to work on that farm in Northamptonshire, and this is a horse collar like the one he carried. Let me show you just how heavy this is. And now we need the coulter, because he also carried that. This is part of the plough. 40 pounds. That probably weighs more than he did.
Okay, so here's the chimney sweeps. What? Yeah, they're just excerpts from a bigger.
With a view of immediately testing my capabilities, my new master persuaded me to climb a chimney on my very first morning. With the feet standing upon the grate, the body would nearly fill up the width of a chimney. I climbed with my right arm lifted above the head, the left arm by my side. The elbows were pressed hard against the brickwork to hold the body suspended until the knees were drawn up. Then the knees on one side and the bare heels on the other held me secure, while the right hand applied the scraper to bring down the soot. The knees and elbows, through the constant pressing and the friction with the brickwork, became peeled, thus allowing soot to penetrate. It caused ugly, festering sores, which took several weeks to heal. Breathing was always more or less a difficulty. A hood, called a climbing cap, was drawn over the head and tucked in at the neck. But even with that protection, I was subject to the taste and inhalation of every kind of soot into my throat and lungs. Where fires had only just been put out, the sulphurous fumes were sufficient to stifle one. Once the fumes were so strong that I fell from top to bottom. My insensible.
Recognize the Mary Poppins?
Yes, they really did put kids up chimneys. And this is a kind of normal chimney that George Elson would have been dealing with. But that one's so wide that you would have had no challenge from that. You'd have been up and down there like greased lightning. What really tested boys' metals were chimneys that measured 9 inches by 9 inches, which is this size. And to get into and wriggle through and clean something like this seems practically impossible. Martin Glynn is president of the National Association of British Chimney Sweeps. So Martin, here's a very old chimney right here, and this is the kind of thing those boys would have to clean. So tell us, how did they go about doing it?
Well, the little boys were known as climbing boys, apprenticed to the trade at 7 years old in some cases, and they used to use their elbows and knees to scamper up inside the chimney, and in many cases they were stripped naked. Although they had some sort of early uniform, the soot used to fill the pockets, and because the chimney design was so small, they became wedged, so they used to strip naked so they could escape back down the chimney after cleaning.
So what equipment did they have?
The little climbing boys, and in some cases girls, they used to use a small scraper, such as this, a little small metal scraper with a wooden handle, and the traditional sweeps hand brush, which would literally, they would scrape the soot away and brush with the hand brush.
The exploitation of climbing boys and girls was rightly seen at the time as a national scandal. However, even when new technology was introduced in the form of jointed chimney brushes, and sweeps no longer needed children, it didn't mean that boys and girls were spared.
There was still a great reluctance for the master sweeps of the day to do away with boys, and it was far cheaper to purchase a small boy from a family for a guinea or two, a few shillings from the poorer families, and in some cases little girls as well,
So boys and girls were cheaper than brushes.
Absolutely, at the time. In one horrible incident in Dover in Kent, where a master had sent the boy up the chimney with a wet towel pouring to extinguish a chimney fire. And apparently he climbed into the flue, very reluctantly. The master threatened to beat him. He attempted to climb further into the chimney, became stuck in the chimney, wedged, and apparently they heard his screams for over 2 miles.
Okay, I'm going to skip the last one just for time's sake. Do you want to put it on? Okay. Any thoughts on that you want to share?
That's horrible.
Yeah,
Mary Poppins, why?
Yeah, okay, so what kind of family is Mary Poppins about? Remember what they look like?
Rich.
Yeah, they're rich. They have enough money to pay for a maid. So I think that now that we've seen the other side of the story with what the chimney sweepers went through, you can kind of see how that divide is splitting the country apart.
She gained a bunch of money.
Yeah. Yeah, so all of those stories about the kids, these are called primary documents. Yeah, so like when we heard the little 6-year-old boy talking about being a live scarecrow, that was something that he actually wrote, and I'm not sure if he wrote that as a child or as an adult looking back on his youth, but yes, those were all true stories.
How does this relate to the Christmas Carol?
Yeah, great question, Okay, so we have talked about how the Cratchits are a very poor family, right? And so families like the Cratchits, they would sell their children sometimes to go work, and they wouldn't get their kids back, but they'd get money from that, and that was how they would survive. The times were serious enough where, for their own sake, parents would sell their kids so they could survive and have money and food. Okay? So how this connects to the Christmas Carol then is a family like the Cratchits who has Tiny Tim, who is sick and crippled, and they need money to help bring him to good health. They need people like Scrooge. They need the rich to help out. And so there needs to be a connection between the two where the rich are helping the poor, so this divide doesn't keep getting wider. And so kids don't need to go and work at ages 3 to 21. Like, that's just ridiculous. It's so hard to imagine today, but that's what the reality was. So does that connection make more sense now? Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so now we're going to connect that history and the story of the Christmas Carol, and we're going to think about what it takes to put a play together. Can you think of some crew members? Like, what kind of people do you need to make a play happen? You need a cast? Bree?
You need people that can work like the lights and the scenery.
Scenery? Yes.
A narrator.
A narrator, yeah, exactly. Anything else?
Music.
Music? Yes, actors. Actors? Yes, Randy. Person who wrote the script, yeah? Props. Awesome.
Clothes.
Director. What?
A director.
A director? You said clothes, so costume, and then makeup. I think you guys covered everything that I have listed here. Music, makeup, costume, set, lighting, sound, director, props. Very good. So you know what to think of. So we are going to be doing a group activity, and some of you are going to have to move around. I want at least 3 people together, ideally 4 people together. And what we're going to do is each of you will pick 2 of these roles, and you're going to be in charge of coming up with, like, if you're the musical director, what kind of music are you going to pick for this play? What kind of music is going to happen when they're at the Christmas party versus when the spirits are there? For the set, what are you going to have to build so we know that we're in Victorian Britain and we're in a bank and we're in a house, that kind of thing. So I'm going to pass out the worksheets and then we can get started. Yeah, sure. So I have 2 different sheets.
Here you go. Okay, each table just gets 1.
Oh, I should sit. You can sit there.
These two sheets are different.
Unfiled acrylic nail. No.
Okay, listen up for 1 second. Listen up. Okay,
Wait,
so
did you
there
take
are
theirs?
8.
Your tables?
Guys. Okay, so directions. There are 8 roles here. If you're in a group of 4, well, for